Welcome to another Sage production, the first in a series we're calling the Student Diaries, a chance for you to hear candid thoughts directly from the students. Today, we've assembled an awesome panel from the top universities across Singapore, so sit back and enjoy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our recording today. We are doing something really interesting, a little experiment for our members here at Sage, something to allow us to get you the thoughts of the people that you care about most, the students that you want to hire, the smart talent, and get you their raw thoughts in hopefully the first of a many series to come, something we're calling the Student Diaries. And so with us tonight for our Vol.1 initial pilot, we've got a real great mix of third year and final year students from across Singapore, all studying slightly different things. So without further ado, I'm just going to have them go around and introduce yourself. Why don't we start with Laura, since you're closest to me on the screen. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Laura.
Hi everyone, I'm a final year business student at SMU, majoring in finance and analytics. Previously, I've interned at several companies, Essential as a digital strategy and marketing intern, as well as at Kantar Consulting, which is a market research firm, as a consulting intern. I've also done student-led consulting projects at UOB SMU. So currently right now, my interest in terms of my career path would definitely be in marketing and marketing technology.
Excellent. Okay, great. Welcome. Let's go next to Ling Sin. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
So hello everyone, pleasure to meet you. My name is Ling Sin and I'm a third year student at Yale NUS and I'm majoring in politics, philosophy and economics, which is a very broad and ambitious major. But I see my major and my education as a reflection of my diverse interests in many topics. So some things I've been thinking about recently are what does China's increasing influence on the world mean and how I can engage with that? What an ethical life looks like in the age of climate change, and I don't know what's the meaning of work, right? So I think last summer I did an internship at Green Monday, which is this social venture group that's looking at using food tech to promote plant-based diet and address some of issues like food security and climate change. And currently I'm doing an internship at TikTok to really see how Chinese companies function. So because I'm a third year, for the coming summer, I'm looking for a professional exposure at a large company to just brush up my, I guess, like professional skills. And I'm also really enjoying in my junior year talking to people about what they want to do post-graduation. So I'm really happy to be part of this panel today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ling Sin. Vincent, over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Vincent. I'm a final year student. I'm studying bioengineering in NTU. And I've always been passionate to enhance the quality of human life. So be it in healthcare or consumer industry. And throughout my university, I have a couple experiences working in both healthcare and consumer goods, such as Johnson & Johnson, RB, and Unilever. And I think one thing that I realized through these internships is that I really like working in a fast-paced and challenging environment. So I think that's something I'm looking forward to when I'm looking for full-time jobs now. And in the future, I hope I could contribute back to my community and create meaningful impact, be it having my own organization or be a part of a bigger organization. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Vincent. And last but not least, Lee Sing, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Lee Sing and I'm a final year NUS business student. I specialize in both marketing and human capital management. So I've done a few internships over the past few years, including business development in a startup, as well as IT in an SME, and most recently, a human capital intern with MasterCard. So right now, I'm actually interning as a digital strategy intern with an SME and its subsidiary company. And I would say my interests would be geared towards marketing as well as corporate communications and generally business management. And so I'm looking for full-time jobs that offer both a mix of local and regional rotations, because I really want to experience what it's like working in a different work environment with people from different backgrounds as well. And I'm looking more towards the F&B or FMCG industry.
Great. Okay, a very energetic and very accomplished panel that we've got tonight. I think this is going to be really exciting. So before we get into the really heavy stuff, like the meaning of life and what you want to do once you leave school, let's just talk about a little bit of what's going on today. Obviously, it's a little bit later than I was hoping. I was hoping we would catch you in September near the beginning of the semester. It's almost near the end of the semester, but this is kind of the first semester where, we knew what the situation was going to be beforehand. We knew it was going to be in this COVID situation. It wasn't going to be the traditional everybody back in the classroom. But in each one of your institutions, your schools have taken slightly different approaches. And on top of my, job with Sage, the other job that I have is working directly with you. And I've visited all your campuses so far, and everyone's slightly different. So I'd love a little check-in to just kind of find out from your perspective, how's the semester been going on? What's it been like for you from that perspective? And are you finding it? Is it what you were expecting? Is it working better than you thought? Give us some thoughts on what the current situation at your institution is. So why don't we start with NUS first, Lee Sing? And I know you're at the business school, which is a little bit different than what's going on main campus. So tell us a little bit about the business school first, and you can maybe compare that with some of your friends on main campus, since it's a bit different.
Yeah, sure. So right now in NUS Business School, what they offer is like a hybrid kind of class format where they give you both the option of attending classes physically on certain weeks, and on alternate weeks you attend Zoom classes. And I would say right now the SEM is it feels a lot more detached than it was last SEM, mainly because some of the group projects, I've never even seen them in person before. So it's literally strangers meeting the first time online, and we are just trying to push the projects along. And I would say this time around learning feels a lot more do it yourself, in the sense where they try to structure our curriculum and our modules to be more of application based. So that would mean more of you guys try and learn things on your own, as opposed to more direct classroom teaching styles. Yeah.
So that's what that means. Yeah, learning your own pace means more applied learning. Okay, really, really interesting. Let's just continue geographically. Right across the bridge, we've got Lingson at Yale NUS. What are you guys doing out there, and how are you finding it?
So yeah, Yale NUS is this small little part of U-Town, right? And I guess because our campus is so small, even though right now, yes, we are offering the hybrid format as well, but actually, I would say, like, in my perspective, student life is somewhat the same again. The only difference is that I have to wear a mask everywhere I go. Yeah, so like residential life is pretty much alive, and like we go to class as per usual. Some of my teachers have been experimenting with more cool like teaching techniques, right? So like this class, because of social distancing, we can't do group projects together. So we end up doing this thing on a digital whiteboard. And then another professor of mine learned this snap filter on Zoom. So he appeared like a cloud on Zoom, and he was just like floating around the whole session. So it's been a lot of interesting teaching experience, like classroom experiences so far. And because I'm connected to NUS, so maybe I'll just say a bit. I think the largest difference from observation is that like NUS looks a little bit like a ghost town because I don't see anyone anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine what that feels like when you just look across the bridge and see like no movement. Okay. Let's take it further out west, and then we'll end up back in the middle of town. Vincent, over to you at NTU. And I was just there today too, and I was actually kind of surprised. I was in the Hive today, and quite a bit of activity, which wasn't what I was initially expecting. From your part of NTU, what does it look like?
So I think for lectures, most of them are still online. But for like small classes or tutorial seminars, they've started to do it physically. What I realized from my course, because most of them requires me to go to the lab, so there's no way to do it online. And I feel like when you're a person and when you have a group projects, for example, a lot of my ideas can come up rather than just talking to a stranger through Zoom. So I think that's a good thing. And another bad thing is that you need to go to school earlier, because there's a lot of ways or like roads that are blocked. So you need to know where to enter and where to exit if you're unfamiliar.
Yes, I did notice today walking around trying to figure out and navigating my way. Okay, very good. So last but not least, right in the center of town, Laura, what's going on there? I was just looking around the other day and I kind of passed through on the weekend too. Feels a little different than in the past.
So currently, right now in SMU, professors have the choice of either choosing hybrid classes, they could just like have it all online. So for the online classes, you could see actually like two types of professors. Those that are really creative, they will use like breakout rooms and other means to engage students. But others are just like a one-way conversation. They just keep rolling on, and you just have to try to pay attention. Another trend I see is that there could be a potential whereby a lot of students could be doing much better this time around for exams because all the lectures are being recorded. And currently, just based on my like past midterms, right, everyone seems to be doing better than expected, like what my professor said. So, yeah.
Well, that's a positive, unexpected consequence. But knowing a little bit that I know at SMU, full disclosure, I used to be on the faculty, that will even itself out, no? Since there's some sort of grading system that forces everybody back into the curve, no?
Yeah, there's definitely bell curve, so it's harder and harder to get an A.
Yeah, okay, okay. So maybe not all is rosy. Okay, that's really interesting. That's a really nice little check-in. And again, before we talk about the future, I want to even go back a little bit further into the past, like what you guys were up to in the summer, because all of you were very active, some of you doing lots of different things. And obviously in the summertime, it was quite different than today, right? A little more unknown. We were just coming out of our circuit breaker here in Singapore. I hadn't really done phase 2 really, so there was still quite a bit of rules in place. So I'd be curious if you could share with us a little bit of what you were up to and how your company decided to work with interns, especially. I mean, they have challenged to work with their full-time staff, and then you're an intern, so unfortunately you're a little bit lower on the priority. And what do you think of that? Did you know? Was it good for you? Pros and cons here. Lingston, let's start with you, since you had to do something. This was the one you were doing with the Hong Kong-based social enterprise this summer? Yeah, so you were doing that all remote, or were you there? Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so a little bit about how circuit breaker went. So this internship was supposed to be about more than 3 months. But because there was an extension of the circuit breaker, right? So it ended up becoming 2 months. And this internship was actually in person, which is quite rare for amongst my friends, who a lot of them did remote. And I think later I figured out that it's because I guess my boss liked the FaceTime more, and because this was in the food industry, so technically you could still return to the office. So it was quite an interesting experience. Yeah, just sitting sitting in a team of 5 people. So this company was really small. Office was really small, 5 people in COVID times, and then going from just seeing as the phases evolve from the 1, 2 to now maybe 3, and how colleagues are beginning to go out and dine out more. Yeah, so that was my experience.
So if I'm to understand this, you were physically in Hong Kong with these guys. Yes?
Okay, so let me clarify. So Green Monday is a Hong Kong-based company, but I was working with their Singapore outpost. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it would have been interesting to see that, because Hong Kong went through a little up and down. Okay. All right. Oh, that was very, very interesting. Vincent, what about you? You spent the summer, that was with Unilever?
No, that was with RB.
Oh, with RB, yeah. So tell me a little bit about that.
So yeah, when I knew that this COVID thing and circuit breaker, I won't be able to go back to my home country. So I thought, okay, now I have 3 months for summer. Let's find something up. And at that time, I was really interested in data science and data analytics. It's something that I picked up online, and I thought, hey, let's find an internship about that. So I applied to RB, and they accepted me and offered me a summer position. So it's the first internship I had online since the beginning until the end. Like the only people I see is that one of the HR when I need to collect my laptop and return it back. But the experience overall has been really great. my supervisor checked in with me like a lot of times, and I can pick things up quickly. I think one of like disadvantages is that like you can't really when you're in office, you can just like come up to your supervisor and ask a few things. Now you need to like schedule meeting, and then the working hours, there's no fine line like 8:30 to 5:30. Sometimes your supervisor may call you like outside working hours, and yeah, so I think it's an interesting experience.
Okay, great. Laura, what about for you? How was your summer internship?
So I did my summer internship at Kanta Consulting. So it's a very small consulting department. I was actually very amazed by how they actually managed COVID and the whole thing about working from home. Because actually, if I compare it to my essential internship that I did at the start of the year, the way they approached like COVID was dramatically different. So at Kanta Consulting, they actually like assigned us buddies to like ensure that they allocate, during lunchtime, like someone new from the department to come and eat with us and to get to know the whole Kanta Consulting as a whole, basically. And also, the MD actually spoke to each of us, like especially the interns, to understand like how we like coping with like COVID and how's everything going. And last but not least, they also had a lot of like Zoom games. So they will come up with really, really creative games like, oh, could you like draw like a gold bar and make people like guess and whatnot. So it's a really interesting, eye-opening experience.
Wow. So very personal, kind of going extra that maybe you wouldn't have gotten if it was in person, you would think? Yeah. Okay. Was that intimidating at all to have like the MD kind of saying, "Hey, can we sit down a little one-on-one, Laura?" And then you got this little intimate setting with you and the computer with the MD?
It was definitely very awkward because I couldn't really see her face if she couldn't see me. So it was just like, oh, her asking a bunch of questions and me answering. But I really appreciated the thought of actually the MD like speaking to an intern. Yeah. I mean, it's an honor lah, but yeah, to have your opinions being taken into consideration.
Sure. Sure. And I think that's obviously really positive, right? Nobody could have predicted this. The fact that they're trying, I think we got to give them a lot of points, and maybe the execution wasn't as optimal, but certainly companies can only learn from that. So it's great to hear that they tried to really make a different experience for that. Last but not least, Lee Sing, you had a pretty interesting summer internship, yeah?
Yeah, so over the summer, I interned with MasterCard. So it was originally supposed to be about 10-week summer internship program, but because of COVID, so they shortened it and they shifted it towards mid of June. So we started later than originally agreed upon, but it was okay. So what happened was logistically, they mailed the laptops to the interns, and before the internship started, we all had to, set up the company intranet, all the logistical stuff. And during the first week, they actually tried to get everybody on board and on the same page by having all these webinars and getting everybody to play icebreaker games online. So it was quite sweet and it was very well planned. It was just a little bit awkward because it's like 20 plus interns. We have never met each other before other than the assessment center. So yeah, we were just trying to build that bond online virtually. Yeah. And throughout the internship, I actually tried to have very frequent check-ins with my supervisor. And actually one of the challenges I faced was he didn't like to have video call. But at the very initial stages when I didn't know him very well yet, it was just awkward speaking to a blank screen, right? So instead, I just decided to be courageous. So I just switched on my video, and at least he can see me. So that's what I tried to do. And towards the end of my internship, because the team was quite spread out, like some of them were in India, China, Australia, and then us in Singapore. So I tried to do like a virtual team bonding activity on Kahoot for everybody, and it was quite fun because I think most of the time that calls are very stressful. So at least having that 30 minutes of just chilling with everyone was quite pleasant to everyone. Yeah, so I think overall it was a very, very interesting experience. The main takeaway, I guess, would be how do you build that human connection through a virtual platform? Like, how do you build that same trust as if I was there in person? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And certainly, I think one of the biggest challenges here, listening to all you guys, is you all started like this. I mean, it would have been different if you started in person and then we had to move online, like most of your coworkers probably had to do since they had been working for the company. I mean, other than Linkson, who had that, the special benefit of allowing, sitting around with everybody, you all had to start that way. And I think that will be really interesting as we go forward a little bit. Okay. Any awesome stories or crazy stories you've heard from your peers? You don't have to out anybody. You don't have to quote any names or companies, but based on the stuff that you've heard when you compared notes, I'm sure you compared a lot of what the experiences were. Right? Were the majority pretty strong, or I can't imagine all the companies were able to figure this out, right? You guys worked for a lot of good ones, I think, but were there other more tricky stories that you'd heard?
Maybe I can start. Yeah, I heard a lot of my friends, their internships were canceled last minute. So after they received offer, they canceled the internship offer. For my case, like in the middle of, I think like 1 month before I start my internship, the HR comes in and like asked whether, how do you think COVID will impact your internship experience and everything. So I was scared that they will like take back their offers and everything. But yeah, luckily they didn't. But for majority of my friends, there's a lot of them that didn't get their summer internship because of COVID.
Mm. And what types of fields were they in? Just curious, Vincent, because I mean, you're studying bioengineering, but obviously, the types of things that you guys want to do can be quite wide. Were your friends interested in very engineering type of things or more businessy things? Give us a little flavor of that.
I think I can say for 2 or 3 industries. Like one of them that I know is like a tech company, which is like quite surprising. One of it is actually consulting. Like they say that they didn't have any budget for like due to COVID, but if you want to work for the experience without getting paid, sure, you can come in.
Oh, of course. If you want to work for free, of course we'll take you, right? Okay. Okay, really interesting.
And the last one I think is from my major.
Okay. Great. Thanks for sharing, Vincent. Anybody else got some juicy stuff? What'd you hear from your peers?
I think during the city period when Citibank actually said that for the summer interns, there's a high likelihood that they will be converted full time like next year. I think a lot of my friends and I were very indignant because, hey, how come Citibank allow all your interns to get converted? I mean, like high likelihood in that sense. Whereas like other banks, they didn't really like convert the interns. So I guess it's like a stroke of luck, especially for the interns at Citibank.
That was a very bold move by Citibank, right? You guys would say they spoiled the market for everybody else a little bit here. But I mean, it's moves like that that people remember and continue to talk about for probably many years beyond that. Hey, back when I was in COVID, blah, 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 this happened. I know a little bit about this because I graduated undergrad in '01 with a technology degree. That was the .com crash, and so many stories of friends losing offers and others continue to employ people, and to this day I can still quote companies who did some funny stuff with their offers of with their friends. So people remember that. Okay. All right, so let's talk about a little bit of what's going on right now with your careers as we move into that part, which is the stuff that obviously our audience cares a lot about and wants to support you in that. You're all, I know, very active, whether you're looking for an internship, like Linsing, or you're looking for full-time for the rest of you. So there's a lot of activity going on, just like it would normally be. I mean, this is the fall peak recruiting season, we like to say, but obviously it's going to be in a different shape or form. So since you've all been through this before in different shapes and forms when you're a bit younger, when it comes to the different types of things companies are doing today, are you surprised by that mix? Are they trying to do something a little different? And maybe you can give me maybe 1 or 2 things you participated in and give us a feeling of whether you liked that or didn't like that. Yeah. So Lingston, let's start with you. From the intern's perspective, what's that been like?
So one thing that I think is a blessing in disguise for COVID is that recruitment events are actually so much easier to attend now because I don't have to travel and everything. Yeah, so because I kind of am still undecided as to where I want to go, so I've kind of attended a bunch of events. Off the top of my head, I remember like attending one at GIC. That one's just to meet and hear what they're up to, and then I also attended like PSC, EDB events, so like government employers type of things. I would say the challenge is it's like a pros and cons kind of thing, right? Like if I'm just here to gain the information, it's definitely very great. But when it comes to really trying to go for the event and maybe do a little something more there, right? Like get a personal touch, meet somebody there, and then make an impression. Like I think it's close to impossible to do that. As for what I'm looking out for right now, what things have been happening. I think I'm not sure if any of you guys have faced this same struggle, but I think for me, because coming from liberal arts background, I don't really have that much how to say, like this idea of thinking about internships and thinking about career. It's like something that I just only started thinking like not so long ago, right? And but then at the same time, there was this like subsection of Yale US students who were very, very successful. So what the typical path that they go by is like, oh, they get like land a very good like penultimate year summer internship, and then get the conversion, and then like during senior year they just chill and like basically I'm out of this game kind of thing. And I think like for a while, looking at my seniors, that was really what I wanted to do as well. I was like, oh, it'll be so great, right? But I think this year, it's amazing how much I've sort of changed my perspective on what it means to search for internships right now. So I'm currently doing a part-time internship, and of course, I guess like to some extent it does help in my future applications. But I think I see it more as when it comes to understanding how companies work, I still have so much more to learn. And I'm really I think in the past perhaps like seeing other people internship, the idea of internship has been spoiled in a sense. Like it's not just about the experience, but it's also about the name, right? But I think I've claimed what internship is for myself. It really is about the experience and yeah, I guess that's where I am with on this journey right now.
Thanks so much for sharing. Laura, I want to turn to you next because you've spent a little bit extra time. This isn't your fourth and final year. This is your fifth year. So you spent a little bit extra time. So you've got a little bit more, I think, maybe more you've seen. What are your thoughts on what's going on right now? And how would you comment based on what Ling Sin said?
I think I definitely agree with what Lindsay said. I think it's a struggle of every uni student. Actually, I took like particularly like a gap year, kind of explore different internships to understand where I wanted my career to head towards. Because as a business student, we could potentially choose many like different career paths. But personally, I wasn't really sure, so I decided to kind of like take a gap year to do many internships in that sense. Um, so I would say that based on my experience, definitely it varies across many of my friends. Like many of my friends have a very clear goal of where they want to head towards, whereas there are those that are a bit like me. So definitely, like my friends from NUS, she's studying sociology. She kind of like struggles in terms of like finding a full-time job currently right now in during the COVID environment, because there's so much fewer job opportunities for her to explore, and kind of based on what she studied, it's also a bit hard to leverage on what she's studying at the current moment to kind of push her forward in terms of the job applications portion. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. Lee Sing, how's it been for you? These events that you've been going to, I mean, they have lots of different styles, right? There's some where they just do the monologues. A lot of them have panels now, Zoom types of things. How have you found these? And have you attended anything that's a little different? Have they tried to do anything like live streaming or anything like that? What have you been seeing?
Yeah, so I've actually been attending recruitment talks from companies from various industries and of various sizes as well. And I think um, something they have been trying to do is like adding that sense of personal touch while they talk to you. So I do remember one recruitment talk uh, where after like the general sharing, they broke everyone out into breakout rooms. So it was quite intimidating for me because it was me to about 2 or 3 of the recruiters in that room. And honestly, I was just there to listen. So I didn't expect to be facing 1 to 3. It was like an interview almost. And they were all like, just ask us anything. We are all here for you. You can ask us anything at all. Yeah, so it was quite surprising, but also quite nice because they were all about like slightly older than me. So it didn't feel like they were that uh, like too senior or too high of a position to talk to. So that was pretty good. But I think generally speaking, like most of the recruitment talks are all pretty standard. And something that I've noticed is that, for example, if I attend different events from the same company, it's actually the same representative from the company speaking. So I meet the same person on multiple occasions, and after a while, it's just as in I have no more questions because I've asked all of them in the first time. So yeah, I think that's something that I've experienced that might be reflective of some others' experience as well.
Ah, it's really interesting, right? You want the personal touch, and they put you in the breakout rooms, and it scares the crap out of you sometimes, right? I mean, 3-on-1, I'd be intimidated by that for sure. Vincent, your experiences here, what have you been seeing, right? And again, you're looking at different types of industries too, yes?
Yeah. So right now, like while studying and having a part-time interns, also looking for like full-time opportunities. And what I noticed very interesting is that some of them have like a new way of like assessing someone online. So they present us with a lot of like business case, and you're asked to like rank. So which one is like you most likely to respond. So they give us like a situations, and there's like 5 responses, and you need to rank them which one you will like most probably to do and which one you would less likely to do. And what's so great about these assessments, I think, is because like they give you feedbacks. So they tell you where are your strengths, where you like opportunities to grow after this online assessment. I mean, sometimes like doing online assessments can be very time consuming, especially if you apply to a lot of firms. But like having these feedbacks, give you some kind of awareness of like, oh, this is something that I should sell for. It is my forte.
Oh, that's really neat. So at least you feel like the effort didn't go nowhere, even if you don't hear back from the company and you get ghosted by them. At least you got something back. I want to ask you though, when you saw some of these results, what do you think of these results, right? I mean, this is an age-old debate about psychometrics and how accurate they are. I mean, I have a very specific personal view on this, but I'm curious your view. Did you find them quite reflective, quite informative? Something that you thought, oh yeah, that's neat. I learned something new, or oh, that told me exactly what I thought about myself.
Sometimes, like, I mean, the bad thing is that they didn't give you like on a scale on 1 to 10, they just give you like a couple words. But what helps me a lot is if they give you a description. So for example, like they say that one of your strengths is your desire for results, right? Then they give you a tip that you should do this and that, to improve this skill further and etc. But some of them might not be reflective. So for example, like one of the assessment they gave me that you might want to improve your analytical skills. So for example, but then afterwards they have another assessment where you need to do like all the logical sequence and everything, right? And then I scored pretty highly on that, and they said, "Wow, you have a good analytical thinking." Then I was like, "You just said that that was like one of my weaknesses." So there's some pros and cons, and like it's a way of like automation, I guess. It can't be like real personalized.
Work in progress. Work in progress. We'll say that to the companies. I mean, I think it's a positive. All of you, and I certainly remember my days, putting in applications and attending these events takes quite a bit of your time. And so the fact in the old days where you barely heard responses and you only heard responses when things went positive, at least now with some use of technology, maybe COVID accelerated this, so companies are trying new things, at least you can, get some feedback right? Which is
Yep.
what everybody wants, whether it's positive or negative. People just want to hear, versus like literally the term ghost comes from being stood up like that, both professionally and personally. So okay, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. Um, I want to make sure before we run out of time to talk a little bit of what the future, a little crystal ball, right? And because I think people are really curious about how young people, especially you guys, since you're growing up in this time and you're near the end. So, guys starting year 1, year 2, there's still going to be a chance that we change things. But since you're close to the end, how has this experience in the last, I don't know, 6, 8 months, how's it changed how you see the future when it comes to your career? Right? And you can talk about all aspects, whether it's, finding jobs or whether you think you can find one, it changes your strategy, or even what a job means. Like, it's no guarantee that we're necessarily all going to go back to working in the office. You've heard some companies say that, hey, you don't need to come back until like mid or maybe late 2021. Others saying, this is going to be the norm. We're new age, right? Others are trying to send people back to the office now, and people are kind of resisting. So for you, since you have a chance to reflect and you won't technically be starting, right, for some time into 2021, has that changed what you might have thought maybe a year ago versus today? Lee Sing, let's have you go first on this one.
Yeah, sure. So, actually, one of the greatest lessons and observations from COVID is definitely how do you future-proof your job, right? Given that COVID has resulted in quite significant retrenchments across the company. So something that popped into my mind was, how do I future-proof my job? And then the subsequent question to that was, well, that's only assuming if I have one job, right? What if I'd like to take on several hats in the future? What if I don't just want to work for a for-profit organization, but also for a non-profit? Then is it possible that I can juggle all these different hats, given that I have the flexibility to work from home? Yeah, so these are some of the things that I've been thinking about, but I've also been thinking about how should I adapt to the post-COVID future, right? So post-COVID, at least in my opinion, it will take some time for the economy to kickstart again. So at least in those few years, I was just thinking, what are the so-called essential services, given the the recent saga online. So with all the essential services, I just kept thinking, and I was just reading all the job descriptions. I was like, okay, would this be a sustainable job? But even if it's sustainable right now, how do you ensure that you must always keep yourself like on your toes and be adaptable, so that if anything is made redundant, at least you can switch to like a hybrid kind of career or something else and not be made redundant entirely. So that's some of my thoughts for now.
That's very interesting. Thanks so much for kicking this off. Vincent, let's go with you here. Your thoughts on the future?
Personally, this is my personal experience. I mean, since COVID, I find that finding internships or full-time jobs is much harder, especially for a foreigner like me. Now they have like all of SG traineeship, or like some positions they will tell you at the start of the application, like you need to have a valid work permit to be able to apply and everything. So I mean, at first when I go to university, I know that I want to focus everything on healthcare. This is what I'm gonna do for a long term. But now I start to open my choices. So it's like looking for other types of jobs is that I can use my skills, like my transferable skills, and how I can be adaptable to the new environment and etc.
Okay, great. Thanks, Vincent. Lingsen?
For me, I think this whole career exploration thing kind of coincided with COVID. Like this really hit in my year 2 summer, right? And I think like something that really hit me was just how unpredictable life and circumstances are. Sometimes you can plan a lot, but in the end, the world's going to say something else, and then you got to adapt to it. And yeah, so I think what got me thinking was a lot about like what it means to be resilient and adaptable, not just in the context of how do I show that to my employer, because I think that's like only a part of my identity, right? Like I think because COVID gave me a lot of time to stay at home, have a lot of free time to also like think about myself in relation to the world. I feel like it really made me question, like how do you regulate yourself? And when you have that amount of time to reflect, like this is an unprecedented opportunity, how do you take advantage of that and really grow in this sort of unique opportunity, right? And I think one other thing I might say is it's also this idea of adapting to remote work. So because I'm currently like just doing a little bit of remote work, so like even though before I did a physical internship, but now I'm also getting a taste of what it's like to be Zooming and everything. And I feel like as perhaps especially for the tech industry, like specific tech industry, like this might not go away. Not just because yeah, it's some people, like work is perfectly possible to be done or on just in the comfort of your home, but also that as teams get more global, perhaps it's better to just be calling from two areas rather than taking the flight over and everything. So I think in a sense, globalization and this whole like working from home, these things are not going away anytime soon. And I think this has also inspired me to really just think about working on just adapting to these conditions as well, and not just saying that, oh, okay, hoping that COVID will go away, but that COVID is here to stay. How do we respond to it in a sensible way?
Thank you for that. Laura, your thoughts on the future?
So to add on to what Lee Sing actually mentioned about future-proofing your career. So I actually remember during the summer, I was actually trying to find like potential like internships I could possibly do as extra, and also finding like full-time jobs. And what surprised me the most was the fact that a lot of these internships or jobs required coding skills, especially like Python, SQL, R. And it was a bit of kind of scaring to me because it was such a huge jump, even though in school currently right now I'm taking analytics as one of my majors. But the whole like demand of the IT space is kind of daunting in that sense. And to add on about the SG traineeships, like all my friends based on my 2016 batch, all of them are on the SG traineeships, and they're all telling me about how they're just trying to take the SG traineeships right now for 1 year and find full-time jobs at the site. And something worrying to me is that right now I'm going to graduate in 2021, and all my like batchmates are going to like swarm, including a 2021 batch, to fight for similar jobs, and it's so limited. So definitely the idea of future-proofing your career is very, very important. And right now I'm trying to, piece everything together and how could I possibly like sell myself better. Yeah.
That's a really interesting point, right? That I think there are some unintended consequences that haven't been thought all the way through. The fact, like in the tech industry, as you mentioned, Lingston, that we're probably not going away from this. I mean, is this positive or not? People have seen the flexibility, but maybe not everybody's realized what the trickier side can be, right? I mean, it started with inventions like the mobile phone, where we didn't know where the line between work and home was, and then you had the BlackBerry Instant On, and now we got data everywhere, to now this work from home, can you get away from that, and all that kind of stuff. And then with the traineeship, it's great what the government's doing here locally to keep supporting that, but when it runs out, and it will eventually run out, right? There could be this glut, so it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I think these are good things to highlight as we get to the end, so employers start to think about this, not just today, but just in the near future. So, and with this, I want each of you to give a last word here as a bit of a, if you could speak directly to the employers right now, especially the employers that are our members here, and if you had some sort of wish, right? One thing you could wish them to do in the short term for you, right? One thing you'd wish, given what you've seen so far and what you've seen, if they could make some adjustments, is there one thing you would love for them to try a little bit? Or maybe one thing you tell them, hey, stop doing this one. It's not working. We've done too much of this. It's not going well. So either something you want them to do differently, yeah, or do less of. What would you have for them? Vincent, let's give you the first word here.
Okay, personally, I I think that for graduate employers, like I mean, like currently they have a lot of like these graduate programs with rigorous uh, like collecting process and everything. And I know that they're, they they cost you a lot of resources. So I personally think that you should open for more like opportunities, since that we have a lot. I mean, like we have a lot of supply of graduates now. Um, Maybe you can give us more opportunities uh, to grow instead of like focusing on one person. Uh, I think that's what I think. Yeah.
Okay, so spread it around a little bit instead of
Yeah.
concentrating your resources. Potentially spread it around a little bit. I love that. Yeah, Lee Sing.
For me, I think it would be more regular updates to our job applications. So at least I know if you have received it, or if it's pending, or if it's rejected, I'd like to know. Yeah, because sometimes I send in applications and um, I don't hear from them for months, and then I forget I even applied because there's no reply. So yeah, I think that would help.
Great. Laura?
I think for me personally, recently I've seen like the upward trend of many companies such as BCG, KPMG, the Big Boss having a lot of virtual internships through like Inside Sherpa. I think it's like a growing trend whereby many other employers could kind of like tap into this resource and potentially like try this like new platform for many people to experience how's it like to intern in a company and give them a bit more insight into how their culture is like.
Great. Yes, we had the founder of one of the founders of Inside Sherpa with us at an event recently. They have recently rebranded to Forage, I believe the new name, but the concept is still really interesting. Virtual internships giving students a chance to really experience it if they can't get the actual normal one, which is obviously there's nothing normal today. Linson, the last word, since you have a little bit longer horizon, right? So you've got a year and a bit still to go. One wish that you had for the employers out there?
Um, I really don't know. I think not used to like interacting with employers so closely.
Yeah. So tell us about the personal touch. What would that mean? How personal is too personal? What would be the right balance for you? That's something that's a good one to end. Because they all want the personal touch with you, right? But 3-on-1, as Lee Sing kind of said, is probably like a little too much.
Yeah, okay, maybe just like practical advice. So I think a lot of employers out there, they have the networking events, and sometimes it's a little bit confusing as to what you are trying to do with the event. So for example, for the bigger companies, I get a sense that this is not just an info session. Like if you want to attend the event, you need to submit your resume and like cover letter and all that, and it makes people who are just looking very stressed out. And then there are also events where they're trying to do a lot of things, like they're trying to do info session, and then they're also having breakout rooms and like super extensive Q&A. So perhaps like events that are more campus facing, now that they are all moved to Zoom now, could have a little bit more of a targeted approach. So like an event that is purely information, and another event is like for more intimate settings. So perhaps in a sense, students or like myself will have a better more realistic expectation as to what this event would be like. Yeah, that'll be very helpful.
Great. And I think that's a perfect note to end. Laura, Lingson, Vincent, Lee Sing, on behalf of the Sage community, thank you so much. I think this was an excellent start. I'm really excited. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching this recording, give us some feedback. Let us know what you think, what you want to hear more of from the students the next time around. We're going to try to make this a regular recurrence, so send in your questions. And to all four of you, we wish you best of luck. Keep in touch with the Sage community, right? And I think we're interested. We're in for an interesting ride, all right? 2020 is almost over. 2021, let's see. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.